Hi everyone, welcome to my educational portfolio. Right here I have my About Me where I talk about my affiliations I have with the college and why I want to be a teacher and how I'm eager to grow and learn more in the future, and I can't wait to have my classroom of my own teacher. Then I have my I Teach video. In my Why I Teach video, I talk about my experience moving abruptly and very quickly, second to third grade. I was super sad that I didn't have the chance to say goodbye to anyone in my school. And this one teacher really made a huge impact on me. She made me feel like I was included and welcome in the classroom when I was going into a scary situation where I didn't know anyone and I wanted to be back with my old friends. So I really want to make sure that I can create a community similar to that third grade teacher that I had. I want to make sure that my community in my classroom, that people have their individuality and diversity is appreciated and celebrated. I want to advocate for my students and make sure that they feel as if I am someone that they can come to and that I am there to protect them and do what I can to make sure that their classroom experience is the best that it can be. Then moving along to my philosophical tenets, I wrote about three philosophical tenets. The first one was high expectations. I believe that optimal learning occurs when teachers hold students to high expectations and encourage them to strive to be the best they can. I really believe that high expectations plays a huge role in the classroom. When teachers keep their students to these high expectations, they perform better than they would of a student or a teacher who doesn't have high expectations. Having high expectations makes students strive and makes them push themselves into being the best that they can and doing the best work that they can. Collaboration has a huge influence on the classroom, not only when teachers work with other teachers or students work with other students. It's super important that collaboration happens between many different members of the school community in order to elevate student success. It's important for teachers to collaborate with other teachers in order to find different teaching ideas and hear feedback on what teachers have found works best or what doesn't work best in the classroom, and ensuring that collaboration elevates the classroom experience and ensuring that students are getting the best education they can. And lastly, the last philosophical tenet I wrote about was positive classroom relationship. I believe that students learn their best when they feel safe, as if they have a safe, nurturing, and inviting place to learn and can confide in their peers or teachers when needed. So I really want to make sure that I can create a positive classroom, as I want to make sure that my students feel as if we have a strong relationship between each other and that they can trust me with anything. Not only am I a teacher teaching students math, science, social studies, I'm also teaching them to learn manners. I'm teaching them to be who they are. I want to make sure that they know that they can come to me whenever they're in need, if it's some family issue or they're struggling with math, reading, or social skills. I want to make sure that students feel as if they can come to me whenever they need. If there is not a positive classroom relationship, then students may not feel as if it's important to do their work or that what I'm teaching them isn't important. And I want to make sure that my students feel as if I am somebody that they can confide in and that I am a safe adult that they can always come to and always rely on. Next, we're going into block 1. So the district and school profile, I focused on Smith Elementary School, which is a pseudonym, and it's located in the suburbs of Chicago, and it is one of 8 elementary schools in the district. The school is commendable, which is a school that has no underperforming students and a graduating rate higher than 67%. The school has many personal resources in the building that are able to help support students in the school's operation. The demographic of the school is not very diverse. Smith Elementary School performs very well. They have not many low-income students and no students who are homeless. Only 5% of the students come from low income compared to the district of 15.2%. Academically, the school and district perform very well. Students attending the school overall are more proficient in math and ELA. 50% of the students meet or exceed the expectation, which compared to the state is only 32%. Now, the class that I focused on or analyzed was a class composed of 18 students, 10 who were boys and 8 who were girls, and 10 of the students were white, 4 were Hispanic, 2 were African American, and 1 was Asian, and 1 was multiracial. 2 of the students spoke another language fluently, while the other partially spoke Spanish. Not only were the students diverse in race, they also were diverse in their abilities, as a few of the students had IEPs, 504 plans, and other accommodations. Another student with the 504 plan, the 504 plan was for ADHD. And it's very important for teachers to gather this type of information because having this information of a class profile can really help teachers determine what students need to have academic success. It's also important because not every student is the same and they may be different, and having this background knowledge on students' abilities, families, and other home environments is super important because this information can be used when a teacher's absent, but it's also important just to also create, as going back into my philosophical tenets, creating a positive classroom relationship. The first IPTS standard that I focused on was content and pedagogical knowledge. So I focused on the 2L part of this standard. When I was creating a science lesson, I was able to work collaboratively with other teacher candidates, and we were able to become very fluent in this simulation. In this simulation, students were able to add water or heat or sun and see how the plant would be affected. This was a super great simulation because students were able to create inquiries and make questions and pose questions and observe what happens when they add or take away water or add or take away sunlight. It was a really good opportunity for not only the teacher but for students to work with this technology and try to become fluent in the different technologies that are ever growing in the classroom. The next ITPS standard I focused on was instructional delivery. So when I was teaching a math lesson, I decided to change my role from being an instructor to being an audience member. So I had my student take on the role of instructor and I had myself be the audience or the student. In doing so, this was a really great activity for not only me, but as well as my student, because it gave my student the opportunity to show his skills and also kept him engaged because he was really excited to pretend to be the teacher. At first, he was really hesitant about it. However, once he felt more comfortable, he did a great job. He was able to reach towards the standard of explaining equivalent fractions, and it was a great activity to do. Lastly, I have assessments. I focus on 7B. When I was assessing in a math lesson, I wanted to choose an assessment that had validity to make sure that it was measuring what the student was supposed to be doing, and I didn't want to choose an assessment that was not going to measure what was supposed to be measured. So the student did a really great job on this assessment, and from that I was able to determine that he met the Illinois Learning Standard of explaining and understanding equivalent fractions, and then I was able to create and modify the next lesson based on his assessment and his educational needs. Lastly, we have growth and development. I personally growed a lot this semester with my use of technology. Due to COVID-19, I had to really adapt and figure out different ways to use technology to teach. I taught virtually and in person and went back and forth, and I had to be very flexible and of learning new technology and equipment. I feel like I did a really good job making sure that I could use technology to my advantage and creating an environment and creating lesson plans that were beneficial to my student. Collaboration was another growth I saw this year. I did a really good job working with my fellow teacher candidates and creating lesson plans, and we were able to bounce ideas off of each other, and I really was able to grow off of working with them because I learned different ideas, heard feedback from my lessons, and I was able to really reflect on my teaching as well as learn what worked best for them and take those ideas and put them into my own implications of teaching. And lastly, the last growth I saw was a positive classroom relationship. I really was able to create a positive classroom relationship with the student I worked. I really strived to make sure that they felt safe and that I was like a trusted adult. I went and tried to connect with the family as well, learned and talked to the grandparents and the parents a lot, and tried to ensure that the student felt that we had a really strong relationship, because this is a really important part of teaching, as I talked about positive classroom relationships in my philosophical tenets. And then some things I'd want to work on for next semester is differentiation. I really want to continue to grow and focus on differentiation, as it's really important to make sure that each student's needs are being met. I want to set a goal for myself to figure out different ways to differentiate lessons and do research on what differentiation strategies work best in the classroom and what don't work the best, in order to ensure that I can grow my skills in differentiating learning. Classroom management. Classroom management is another area I would want to work on. When I was working with my student this semester, classroom management was something that I struggled with. They would often get off task or off focus, and I would have to focus a lot of my time in classroom management rather than focusing it on instructional needs and teaching lessons. So I really want to set a goal for myself to figure out different ways to manage my classroom and make sure that I'm using my time efficiently. I want to also use my skill of collaboration to affect my classroom management and talk to my fellow teacher candidates and see what classroom management skills work best for them, and try to grow further in the next semester. And lastly, inclusion. I really want to make sure that I can improve on inclusion next semester. It's really important that my students feel included in the classroom and that they are important. I really want to make sure that I can reflect on other students' cultures and relate to them. So I'm setting a goal for myself to do research on different cultures and familiarize myself with my students' cultures and ensure that I can create an inclusive classroom that my students feel safe and comfortable with. Thank you for coming along and looking at my educational portfolio, and I hope you learned a little bit about my educational journey into becoming a teacher.